Right now, forget about November 6th, people already voting across this country, and the president, he's among them. But the question is, right now, who's ahead, and down the stretch, who's got the better plan to get this thing over the finish line? And next in the line of duty, 2 police officers in our region shot this week in 2 separate incidents. One did not make it. We're going to sit down with a former police commander to talk about the reality of life and death on the beat here. Plus, the Islanders, as you all know, they're heading to Brooklyn, and while that may be terrific for Kings County, it's not so good for Long Island. Bye-bye Coliseum, hello Barclays Center. The question is, tonight at least, we get into how will this move impact the team's long-suffering plans and the island they leave behind. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening. We're going to talk about all that, plus the storm, plus the question of concussions in youth sports. We'll get into all that in a jam-packed 60 minutes. But we begin, of course, with politics. Election day now just 11 days out. The race still extremely tight. Mitt Romney up by just under a point when you put all the composite polls together. Nate Silver of the Times still has Obama winning the electoral vote and another 4 years in office, but a lot of polls show this as maybe going the other way, certainly with momentum behind Mitt Romney. Now, while the president and Governor Romney certainly are going to be going down to the wire with this thing over the undecided voters, people across the country, as I mentioned, already are heading to the polls, early voting a major element of this 2012 race. It's estimated that more than 7.7 million people have already cast their votes, and among them, as I said, President Obama. His trip to the polling place was a historic moment, if you will, the first time ever that a sitting president cast an early vote in person. Now, the data we're getting suggests early voting seems to benefit the Democrats, particularly in swing and Democratic-leaning states. That's just one reason the Obama campaign thinks if the election were held today, albeit by a narrow margin, they would come out on top. So the question is, who is winning this thing right now? And for some of the political perspectives on that, let's bring in our table, our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. Andrew, tell us what folks, I guess from both sides on the aisle, are saying on why their side's got a better shot 11 days from today.
Well, we've got 2 experts who say that Obama is winning and one who says Romney. First up, Democratic consultant Bob Shrum. Not surprisingly, he thinks Obama is in the better position. He explained why in the Daily Beast. He said, quote, "The Obama strategy of defining Romney as over the summer as an out-of-touch, job-destroying financial manipulator of, by, and for the rich was so effective that the Republican nominee had to use the hours when the whole nation was watching in the debate to resculpt his image. If you see past the smoke and mirrors, you'll understand that Barack Obama continues to command the electoral landscape." Next up, Time Magazine senior political analyst Mark Halperin. He also says Obama. Republicans see a ceiling of about 47% for Obama's share of the vote in most of the 9 battleground states that will decide this contest. The Obama team says it consistently measures their man above that magic line, around 48 to 50%. The key differential between the Chicago and Boston methodologies appears to be assumptions about the final makeup of the electorate in the 9 battleground states. Finally, veteran strategist to both parties, Doug Schoen, writes in the Daily Beast that Romney is better positioned, noting that Ohio is likely to decide the election. He writes, "The polls from Ohio currently show a dead heat, but they also show momentum for Romney. 2 weeks ago," he writes, "Obama was up 10 in the state. Today that margin is close to 3. Romney's improving image and the changing polls in Ohio do not paint a good picture for Obama. Time is running out," he writes, "for the president to counter Mitt's surge. It's still a tie, but things seem to be trending Romney's way." Rich?
All right, Andrew, thank you. Now I want to bring our panel on this. Brad Gerstman, political consultant and founding partner of Gotham Government Relations. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Anthony Figliola, vice president of Empire Government Strategies. And we've met Andrew. And Brad, I'm going to start off with you. Today, the election, hypothetically, happened tonight. Certainly seems momentum is going with Romney. Who wins if the election were tonight instead of 11 days?
I think the president would win, okay? I think because the electoral vote, it's the way they look like they're going to lay out, is it still looks very favorable to him, okay? However, I do see the momentum starting from the first debate until today, and I think that momentum, short of anything catastrophic happening, along the way to Romney. I do see more momentum in his direction. I think what happened in that first debate was obvious, is that it was the first time that people were able to see him go up side by side with the president, and I think there was a likability, or at least it was a check in the box, he passes, which is good enough for those anti-Obama votes. And they said, you know what? He's going to be okay, and I think we've seen that, especially in women, in closing the gap in the polls, and that's going to be, I think, one of the big momentum factors for Romney moving
Early
down.
voting say anything to you? It is not surprising. I mean, Democrats tend to do historically better in it, but are you surprised by how many people are voting and about the margin?
I'm surprised about the fact that we're entitled to have early voting. That's A. B, I think that we will see more and more people take advantage of it, and I do think it'll be Democrats taking the most advantage of that. I think it does lend itself more to a Democratic vote.
I think early voting is an indication of a better ground game and a better organization to get groups of people out to the polls early. So we've often talked about the Democrats having a better ground game. I think you're seeing evidence of that.
And we'll get into the next segment on the strategy front. Dominic, it seems that if you look at the map, Electoral College favors Obama. Popular vote may be favoring Mitt Romney. You think we're heading down something similar to what we saw in 2000?
Strong possibility. The only thing I want to differ with a little bit, the early voting, all that tells me is that the media is very powerful. At the time of the early voting, Obama was way ahead. It was considered that this race was almost over. This was prior to debate number 1. So that's the easy explanation for why the early voting is breaking towards Obama. But you couldn't have said it better, Rich. I know. Give yourself credit on that one. But I can easily see Mr. Romney winning the popular vote, but Obama taking the Electoral College. I did a test today, and I wasn't going to say this, but I listened to Romney's speech, and I didn't watch it because we all follow this for a living. I didn't watch it at all. I just listened to it without looking at his face, and boy, did he sound presidential. It was scary.
Anthony, give me a snapshot. I know you talk to people, certainly on the Republican side. Are they feeling confident tonight here? Do they think that, again, we'll get into the strategy part about what happens in the next 11 days, but today, where we are right now, cash on hand, enthusiasm, organization, do they think they're ready now to win?
I believe that they do. They know that it's going to be a close race. I agree with you, Brad. But I believe that the momentum is in Romney's corner, and he's really gotten the base to get up and motivated to go after him. And we've discussed this on several other panels about getting motivated. It came down to the debates, and I don't think that he disappointed. I also think in the last debate he looked incredibly presidential, which is why you're starting to see the polling numbers among women go towards Romney.
We've seen a fractured base. You saw it through the primary. Hardline conservatives not sure that Romney was one of them. A Tea Party saying, I'm not buying it. Are they on board? And is it because of Romney or just because they can't stand the president? And I guess it doesn't really matter. But are they going to turn out in big numbers?
They will turn out. Republicans historically always turn out more than even Democrats do, which is why you're seeing the Obama campaign really put into a push in places like Ohio, where they're bussing them in to early voting. The Republicans will come out and vote. And really the key for the campaign right now is to continue down this path talking about the economy. And it's getting those conservatives, and they're excited about it. It's but you look at the anybody but Bush. Everybody said, I'll vote for Obama just because he's not George Bush. Mm-hmm. And I think you have that in a way with some of the conservatives, especially the Christian conservatives, which are not really in line with some of his positions in the past. They're not going to vote for Obama, so they're obviously going to come to the polls for Romney.
Andrew, whenever something's really close in a race, I always default to, I look at the campaign managers and I look at the teams and I say, who would, if I had to go to war with somebody, who am I going to trust more? Whatever people like, don't like, Axelrod, Messina, Plouffe, they went to war with this guy 4 years ago. They know good and bad, and I believe, and we'll get in the strategy next segment, it seems that they're the better group here. They didn't have as many of the missteps as we saw, at least certainly in the primary process, and even a little after that for the Romney team. Are they better positioned or Republicans?
I mean, I tend to think that the Democrats are better positioned anyway, but I think they have an edge, as Brad was mentioning, in the electoral math going into this anyhow. I would not discount the effectiveness of Romney's campaign team here. I mean, they steered him through a difficult primary challenge, and I think the primary season was actually tougher for the Romney campaign than the general election has been so far. And I think they've played their cards very well in the general election so far, waiting until the first debate to really moderate Romney's positions as a first chance for a lot of Americans to get to know Mitt Romney.
It's amazing. We're going to take a break here, but Does everybody remember the 24 hours leading up to the first debate?
Yeah.
Here's where I was hearing. The Republicans were all over Romney for saying, what the hell are you doing? Spending a week prepping. Why aren't you campaigning? Get off your you-know-what here and get out there. You've been in lockdown. We were talking about money. You heard this probably more than any of us. Money was going to go to House and Senate races because they thought it was throwing good money after bad for Romney. 90 minutes after that first debate,
Game changer.
this whole
It
thing
has been a game changer,
changed.
but Romney got this big boost and still hasn't moved into a clear lead yet, especially in the electoral count. I would not be that eager
All right.
if I were
we
the
jump
Romney
to our
campaign
first
just
break
yet.
here. When we come back, we're going to tell you what to expect in the final 11 days. Each campaign, they believe they've got the game plan to get their guy across the finish line here, and they're taking very different strategies. We're going to tell you what the strategies are, and we're going to tell you at least what we think, who's got the better odds to get it over that finish line. Stay with us. We'll be right back.